Good afternoon or evening, everybody. Simone, Eli, Gerhard Mathangani joining you with some rock music in the background. Gotta love that. As we are talking the National Signing Day, the early signing period is here for high school football players all throughout the entire country. Of course, our main focus is student athletes along the Gulf Coast, as well as Alabama, Auburn, South Alabama, other SEC schools, which, Gerhard, this year we just happen to have a lot of those guys all kind of mixing in. A lot of got local guys going to the SEC.
Right. We hear from this from Jim Nagy all the time when he talks about the ratios and the per capita for guys that are going to the NFL. But I also think the same thing is on the major college football level as well, where a lot of the guys that are from this area get recruited from here, and then a lot of their teammates end up going to schools as well. So a lot of college football athletes, college football stars, and then we'll see the rankings, and it's like it's great to see the influence that Gulf Coast football has. Yeah,
we have the national rankings. We'll have those in a moment, and we have several guys who are a part of that, like you mentioned, that are playing a role in having their team be one of the top nationally recruited 2025 classes that we've seen so far. The SEC absolutely dominating the top 10 standings. We'll pull those up right now to show you kind of what that looks like in terms of the national ranks. This is according to 247, of course, and so you can see here we have Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Oregon, Ohio State, Auburn, Michigan, Texas A&M, LSU, and Florida. Gerhard,
this is one of those interesting things because Texas is having such a great season on the field, and for them to be recruiting so well with the high school stars, it's unbelievable. But then, of course, obviously, when you think about Texas, you think about offense, you think about Steve Sarkisian. They got one of the guys that are from this area as well. But you see a laundry list of SEC teams. A lot of those guys understand that you need to keep talent in-house, so to speak. That's why you see Alabama and Auburn both there in the top 10. So I think that Kalen DeBoer and Hugh Freeze understanding we got to keep these players in-house, and same thing with some of the neighboring states.
Yeah, for sure. I do think it's a little surprising that whereas they do, prioritize in-state guys, Alabama had two guys in this signing class. Now, you have to remember it's a different era of football than what we have seen. Sure. Of course, the transfer portal plays a huge role in high school football recruiting. And I think that high school coaches will be the first to tell you that our guys are getting overlooked or overshadowed because coaches are waiting for that transfer portal and to hit guys who already have proven film and try to snatch up some of those guys who may be a little bit older, more developed, and certainly SEC caliber guys trying to snag some guys from G5 schools. And so it's always it's a big factor right now. So I'm not totally blown away by not seeing a ton of in-state guys going to the Alabamas of the likes. I mean, they're getting opportunities from other schools as well.
Yeah, I think with NIL, with the transfer portal, what we have opened up to me is almost coaches can have almost a kind of a gap year in recruiting. And let's say you lose out on a guy, well, you can collect some boosters, get some money up, and if they go to a group of 5 school or go to a smaller school and then go develop there, well, then now you can hold a roster spot for them for your next year's roster. And so, like you said, so a lot of the guys that are here get overlooked a little bit. But so we're seeing kind of a ripple effect. And while I think that the transfer portal and NIL overall is better than what we had, these are some of the kind of, I guess you can call it collateral damage, so to speak, as it relates to high school recruiting. Yeah,
no doubt. Of course, we can go on for days about this, but we are going to talk specifically about our local recruits. And when I tell you that our team was all over the place. We were at Saraland, Theodore, George County, T.R. Miller, Viger Blunt, Gulf Shores, Alma Bryant, Bayside. I mean, you name it. Daphne, we were all over the place. We have several other recruits. That's just the list again that's right in front of me at the moment. And so we have coverage from all over the Gulf Coast. You will not find better coverage. A great team that we have here at News 5 with great support. And so we're excited to bring you the top coverage along the Gulf Coast. We're going to start with the Saraland Spartans, who are also going to be preparing here soon for the 6A state championship game. We're going to preview that. That's on Friday, of course. But first, let's say congratulations to Saraland as they were out celebrating several guys there in the land, as they say.
Yeah, 9 athletes overall for the class of 2025. And keep in mind, Ryan Williams is supposed to be a part of this class. But this is 9 guys for KJ Lacey, who you saw there, and Antonio Coleman, the big defensive end. He went Alabama, Auburn, back to Alabama, and then finally settled in with the Auburn Tigers. 9 overall. They also had 5 in volleyball, 1 in wrestling, 1 in softball, as well as Gracie Dees is going to South Alabama. So obviously a very, very talented class of 2025. And in my opinion, it kind of shows you the diversity of athletes that we have here. But of course, this is the early football signing period.
Yep.
These ladies also could have signed when the other period opened up, but I really like what Saraland did was bring everybody in-house all at one time, all celebrate under one umbrella.
Yeah, so we will definitely be touching base with everybody who signed in the signing period.
Right.
But we're going to just kind of stay focused on the football players right now because this today was specifically the early signing period for football players. The signing period for all other sports is open and remains open. I think we saw for a few weeks now. So we did hear from KJ Lacey. You mentioned that he's headed to Texas.
That's right.
The standout quarterback is just a handful. I shouldn't say a handful. I mean, 260 some, but it's a handful to him as good as he plays. Yards away from the all-time passing record in the state of Alabama. We're really hoping that he can pull that off there in Protective Stadium in Birmingham here in a couple of days. I say a couple of weeks, couple of days, 48 hours. And then Antonio Coleman, obviously headed to Auburn. So here's what they had to say as they signed their letters of intent and they prepare for the title game and then off to college.
Everything's been great. The whole signing day process and the recruiting process I had to go through, coming here, starting my recruitment in the freshman year, getting that started up, and then coming here in Saraland, boosting it up, coming here and improving the program a whole lot. Also, as a team, players, coaches, everybody's been everything's been special.
This is the day we've been waiting on for the past 4 years. This is what we've been working towards, and it's finally here. And I'm just thankful to celebrate it with my family, my coaches, my teammates, and still have state on the line. So it's fun. You feel what I'm saying? I'm ecstatic right now.
So obviously, the Saraland Spartans have a ton of talent on both sides of the ball, Gerhard, but those two, certainly the leader when it comes to the offense and the defense. Man, they're talented. They speak well, and you really just hope for the best for those guys.
Yeah, it's almost kind of fitting that it was these two that signed today. It's a very talented class of 2025, but it's kind of like you said, the leader of the offense, the anchor of the defense, 1-2. But keep in mind, Simone, this is about to be a really busy 6 weeks for these guys because they signed today, obviously, and then on Friday they played for the state championship in the Class 6A state championship at Protective Stadium. Then they play in the Alabama-Mississippi All-Star game. And then after that, KJ goes to Florida to go play the Under Armour All-American game. You remember Ryan Williams went through this last year where he just went, it was back-to-back.
Blessed but busy.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what you get for being good.
He showed out in all of them. And then right after that, they head straight to their college destinations in Austin and Auburn.
Yeah, also want to mention that Dylan Alfred, the Saraland wide receiver, also signed today with Ole Miss. He did suffer an ACL tear earlier this year, so a really, really tough battle for him. But, of course, hoping the best for his recovery, and then he'll be headed over to Oxford to play with Lane Kiffin. He did not sign at this event, but he did have a family ceremony for himself. So very cool. Congratulations to our guy, Dylan Alfred. And so still some talented guys in this class that Jeff Kelly's looking to sign here in the next couple of weeks or as we get into the February signing period with Sante McWilliams Jr., C.D. Gill. I mean, the talent just goes on. And so we will see. They got big guys up front on both sides. And so we'll see what that looks like for those guys. Meanwhile, let's keep things rolling, guys. Again, if you're just tuning in, this is National Signing Day Recap. Gerhard Mathangani, Simone Eli joining you to talk all things Gulf Coast and beyond. Honestly, we have guys all over the place. So we're proud of that and excited to show you our coverage. So let's head over to Theodore. Had a chance to be out here today, Gerhard. Super fun to see the Bobcats program. And this guy, he's super special. Well, not Steve Mask. He's special too. But talking about Micah DeBose, obviously the Alabama signee. You see him there. Great support from his Theodore teammates. Of course, DeBose was a transfer over from Viger to Theodore. I think he had 3 years there at Viger, transferred for his senior season after Marcus Cook was let go as the Viger head coach. Marcus Cook is a very close family friend, almost like a father figure to Micah DeBose, and so he chose to play his senior year elsewhere. Regardless, he's still hanging in tough. There's Marcus Cook there hanging out. He's now the offensive coordinator over at Williamson, by the way. And so it was nice to see, Marcus there supporting Micah, but this ain't really all about Micah. And Steve Mask said that regardless of where he kind of spent his time and for whatever reason that he left, he's locked in with Alabama. This is a guy who was one time committed to Georgia for a quick second after Georgia won the national championship. That's right. And has like over 30 offers. He's played up front, a great leader. He's funny. Yeah. He's just a good person. Had a chance to meet his mom today. She's a hoot. And just, you can just tell he's got a lot of support behind him and a really bright future ahead. Had a good ACT score. Just a guy who checks all the boxes and hoping the best for him as he heads over to Kalen DeBoer's program. And he feels like he fits in there really, really well in what Kalen DeBoer wants to try to do offensively.
Yeah. And when you talk to Marcus Hook about him, he says he's got a high IQ. He almost thinks like a college football player already. And so he's already ready for the college game mentally and obviously physically as well. He's been one of the top recruits for this class of 2025 ever since they were sophomores and freshmen. So he's been on the national radar for a very long time. He's handled this recruiting process, I think, beautifully as much as you can, getting calls every day and texts every day, and you're getting tugs and pulls from everybody, whether it's fan allegiances and whatnot, but he's handled it all very well. I know his senior season didn't go the way he wanted it to, but I don't think he ever forgot his roots, and I thought it was great there in that shot that you had where he had both the Viger jersey and the Theodore jersey there.
Sure.
His coach at Viger was also there, and then he was also at Viger for their signing ceremony today as well. So you could just tell he's got a good support system around him, and he appreciates it as well. He's not just a taker of the support, but he's also a giver of the support as well.
Such a good point. Such a good point. Here is Micah DeBose today after I spoke to him on his signing with Alabama.
Have a dream come true, playing for Bama. Have all my hard work finally recognized, but, it's not over yet. I have to go to college and put in more work. It's going to be harder than it is now. I'm excited to be at Bama. It's like, it's Alabama. The way it went this year has nothing to do with the way it's going to go next year. So we're going to win Natty next year. I'm just saying that.
Going to win the Natty next year. Just saying that. Garrett, thanks for hitting the button as I, just put the soundbite on, but I don't actually put ourselves off the camera. So
you're juggling a lot.
I know, juggling a lot. Well, just trying to make sure that we got everybody covered. So, guys, some breaking news coming in. But no, guys, congratulations to Micah DeBose. They're going to win a Natty next year, he says. So, listen, man, if he says it, I'm going to believe him.
I will too, and I think that he understands what Kalen DeBoer wants. He understands what Alabama's building, and I think as of right now, a guy that could literally pick his destination could just go, say, I'm going to go hop on whatever's hot right now. He's like, hey, I want to help build what they're already getting started there at Alabama.
Yep, absolutely. All right, well, I just had somebody comment here that they're watching from Loosedale. That's perfect timing because we were out at George County.
That's right.
And shout out to the principal over there at George County, Chip Menton, used to be the principal at MGM High School here in Sims, then over at Theodore as well. Good friend, and we appreciated him inviting us out to George County for their signing day. And a couple of guys who local fans should be very, very excited about, especially if you're a fan of the Auburn Tigers, because that guy right there, everyone believes, is the future for Hugh Freeze and company. That guy is Deuce Knight. He's a 5-star dual threat quarterback. Posts over 2,000 yards. Gerhard, I think you mentioned 24-some touchdowns. And so Deuce Knight signs officially with the Auburn Tigers. I know that Ole Miss was coming in very, very strong there at the end. Also, congratulations to Cole Bradley with South Alabama, signing with South Alabama, a DB for the Jags. So super excited to see both of those guys represented over there at George County, over in Loosedale, just on the other side of the state line. And again, just appreciate George County having us out there today. You can tell both these guys are fired up for what they were able to accomplish at George County. And then, of course, now as they move forward with their careers. But pretty cool to have a guy going to Auburn and a guy going to South, the same school right there. I mean, it's pumped up.
I know. When I was at Saraland, I was talking to Antonio Coleman. One of the first names he brought up was Deuce Knight and what he thinks that they can build there on the offense with Hugh Freeze. And I think if you watch the Texas A&M game and you watch parts of the Iron Bowl, I know that the ending wasn't the same, but Auburn played hard towards the end of the year. I know 1-2 of those 3 games. I think that these guys, the class of 2025, think they can build upon that. And Antonio Coleman being one, Deuce Knight being another. And like you said, the hometown school, the home state school, I should say, in Ole Miss came hard there at the end. But at the end of the day, he chooses to go to play for Hugh Freeze. I think that's really big. And then you talked about Cole as well, being so close to home and one of those guys that he understands that, playing at South and what they're building there with Coach Major Applewhite is really important to him as well.
Yeah, we had a chance to speak to both guys. Let's hear what they had to say over at signing day at George County.
He said he wanted a big, tall, athletic guy who could throw the rock around, and I think I fit that description very well. And Coach Freeze, he said the trigger man gonna make everything go. So if you got the trigger man, you gonna be good. And just that relationship with Coach Freeze, me being able to talk to him, me knowing him, being around my family since around 9 years old, that led everything back.
Coach Applewhite, Coach Wynn, Coach Hobson, they really made me feel at home. It's not too far from home. It's pretty close. I like the guys there, the players there right now. I like the guys that's coming in. There's 25 class with me. I just feel like it's the right place for me.
So once again, signing day out at George County over in Lucedale, and a big day for the Auburn Tigers, getting 5-star quarterback Deuce Knight, the Auburn Tigers, with the 6th best class in the country, and then a big pickup for South Alabama in Cole Bradley. Gerhard Mathagani will be right back. He's helping us get some video in for another school that we have coming up here in a moment, but a really fun national signing day. Again, this was the signing period, the early signing period officially open for football, so we had guys all along the Gulf Coast signing to go play SEC ball, to play for South Alabama, to play for other Group of 5 schools. And so super proud of just the talented guys we have along the Gulf Coast. We're going to keep things rolling here and head over to T.R. Miller up in Brewton. Again, we had folks all over the entire area, and T.R. Miller, their season came to an end a couple weeks ago, unfortunately at the hands of Houston Academy, who will play this week for a state championship in Class 3A. But T.R. Miller was number 1 ranked team all year long, and this guy, a huge part of their success, no doubt about that. Miles Johnson, he's as good of a young man as he is a football player. Gerhard, you're joining me now back, and I mean, like, this is a guy you just have to cheer for. He played running back for them, and he played linebacker for them. I mean, I think he could have played anything for them, and he would have been successful.
Return kicks,
he returned kicks. God, I forgot about that. Yeah,
there was a game where he scored in all 3 phases, and it just shows you his impact. But I think that you've talked about this multiple times on this show and other platforms, that he's just a good kid there as well. And Coach Hubbard talks about that in his leadership. I know this season did not go the way he wanted it to go, but it's one of those things that you could tell his leadership. He can roll through adversity, and he's going through a program that's kind of doing the same thing right now, growing through adversity. And obviously they got a big win over Ole Miss, and so I think that he wants to help build what Coach Napier is already starting over there, and they already made a pledge that they will stay with Napier. So I think that made Johnson Miles' decision helped him to solidify it that Florida's not on shaky ground. They're going headstream, a full headstrong with their coach, with their coaching staff, and obviously shout out to Miles for just being an incredible player, but also an incredible person.
Yeah, and one thing that he said that I think that is maybe undervalued in this day and age, I think there was a time in recruiting where just feeling good and feeling like a school has been loyal to you and that you've been loyal to them throughout the recruiting process is like near the top, if not the number 1 priority. And I think for him that served true, because he had other schools coming in. He had other opportunities. And then there was shaky ground with Florida. Obviously, they reaffirmed their commitment to Florida. They had success at the end of the year, like you just mentioned. And so he started to feel good about what's happening on the field. But even throughout when we interviewed him, during Florida's, not just tough times, he was locked in there. He felt good about that, and that was like the middle of the season. And so I love to see that was meaningful enough to him that he wanted to stay there for that reason.
Yeah, in one of the games we went to go preview, you and I went up to Old Bruton and we previewed the Hillcrest Evergreen game. It was one of our game of the week. And then the very next day after that football game, he was going to Gainesville. I forgot who they were playing, but he was going to Gainesville. And like you said, it was in the middle of their run where it's like where you just thought, that's not a fun place to watch a football game right now.
No question.
But he stuck with it, and he stuck with that program. You think about a guy like Shamar James, who left Faith Academy, went over to Gainesville, and now is one of the most productive players, a great leader.
That's a good point.
And you wonder if Miles can kind of fill in that same kind of fold.
Very, very similar, just in their delivery, how they speak to the media, and I think it comes from the heart. And so that's a really good connection there, and it's kind of intriguing that both of them went to the same school too. So I love that. Very cool. All right, guys, let's head over to Williamson High School, where Williamson is back. There's no doubt about that. Under Coach Antonio Coleman. They had a great season. They contended for the 5A title there in Region 1. And today, 3 stars there for the Lions. They, of course, the AC, Antonio Coleman, and 3 local guys there at Williamson signing their letters of intent. So congratulations to Carday Smith, the offensive lineman who flipped to Colorado. Originally was committed to Auburn. Then he was going to go to USC, but is going to settle in with Deion Sanders and the Buffaloes. Taj Overton has signed with Arkansas. He's been locked into Arkansas for a while. Actually did his commitment with us. That was really, really cool when he announced that commitment earlier this year, back in the spring. And Eric Williams headed to North Alabama. North Alabama's done a really, really fine job getting a lot of Gulf Coast area talent. I talked to Brent Dearman briefly today, and he said he's proud of being able to pick up some Gulf Coast talent down here, and he certainly has. I know that there's a guy over at Alma Bryant we'll touch on in a minute, but North Alabama is certainly prioritizing getting guys here along the Gulf Coast, G.
Yeah, Brent Dearman's obviously got ties down here as well, so he knows how good the football is. It's now, hey, can we get him to drive a few hours north?
I think that he trusts the high school coaches down here to say, hey man, like, I'll put my name on this kid. He is this good, and we have a lot of coaches down here that are trying to get those guys. I mean, that is part of being a high school football coach, is getting your guys recruited, help them go into the next level. And so I truly believe we have a lot of coaches like that. Antonio Coleman is certainly one of those guys. Yeah. So as well as his offensive coordinator and his entire staff. Right. I mean, they work for their players as much as any school I have seen.
And Antonio Coleman, I think you bring up a great point, twofold. I think the coaches on the college level trust our coaches down here, but also the coaches down here that have played college football understand how important this process is. And you mentioned it when we got a chance to talk to Taj Overton after he announced his commitment to Arkansas. Smiling ear to ear was Antonio Coleman because he understood, hey, this is such a big deal for a guy to go and play at the highest level of football. And all these guys that are going to play, they're on that next level. So I think it's a little extra special for a guy who was a coach, not a player, not that long ago, who's now coaching, to help guide them in this process.
Yes, no doubt about that. So congratulations to the Williamson Lions on a fantastic year, and I think that only more success on the horizon for them as well. Yeah. All right, guys, let's keep things moving. You were out at Viger High School today, Gerhard, to check in with the Wolfpack.
Yeah, this is a really fun signing day. It was a little different from most. It was very formal. We had a Pledge of Allegiance. We had a little bit of everything. But there you see Carlos Greenpants Jr. Wearing the Mercer hat. He's going to Mercer. And then you have Kevin Malone, I should say, going to Louisiana Lafayette. KJ, I love him. And then you also have a guy who played football for one season. Aslan Jones. They call him Petey. Aslan Jones, he played football. There's Micah, we talked about earlier, being there. He's going to Arkansas State, but he's a basketball guy, came out for football, played very well. And then Tycherius Tucker is headed to Alabama State on the offensive line. So a really fun day for Viger. And keep in mind, this is a Viger team. This Viger senior group, their coach changed at the very last minute, and they had to buy into what Coach McKenzie had to say, his message. They did so, and they made a nice run all the way to state semifinals. So I think it's a hat tip to this class, but also a hat tip to these four guys.
Yeah, and I will say a handful of those guys were also at Theodore supporting Micah, too. Yeah. So it was cool. I talked to Tycherius. He was there, and I was told they're like best friends, the two of them. And so they, of course, to be back and, just to see the brotherly love that ultimately – regardless of what happens throughout the ups and downs of high school football, to know that their loyalty goes so beyond, a football field. And you mentioned, I loved this, that John McKenzie gave love to Micah during the ceremony. I think that's so special for him to recognize him and just know that, hey, like he helped, win a state title a few years ago. Right. He was a huge part of this program. And he made a decision to go somewhere else, but he's still our brother. And then over at Theodore, Coach Steve Mass gave a shout out specifically to Marcus Cook to say, hey, he played such a role in Micah's life. And I just think that there's a respect level there that ultimately, even though we're all going to war when it comes to the football field, like cooler heads prevail, and you're just proud of the effort of these young men, and you're even more proud to see them progress academically, to be able to sign a college scholarship, to go be able to fulfill their dream.
Yeah, you use a word on the show a lot, a perspective, and I think that this day kind of gives that, because you're not in competition. Everybody's cheering for one another because everybody will be going different directions. They're all under the same roof. They're all at the Viger Library or at the Theodore Auditorium or at the Saraland Gym or wherever for this one day. After today, they're all going their separate ways. And so to have these last few fleeting moments of support, it really just goes to show that this is just so much bigger than just, the games we have on Friday nights, even though those are extremely important and also really, really fun.
And shout out to these guys. I mean, these guys look sharp today. Sure, I mean, they're out there, they're looking sharp. They look professional, like they're going for a job interview. And so you're proud to see that, no question. Here's what the Viger players that we spoke to had to say about signing their letters of intent.
It's a great day, most definitely blessed. Going to school for free and nobody parents don't have to pay for nothing, so it's a blessing all around.
It's always been one of my goals to do in life. It's definitely a blessing for my mom. She don't have to pay for me to go to college, so it's a blessing. I would thank God for this. I didn't know I was signed, but it was a blessing for me to sign to Arkansas State University because it was a blessing. It was a hard recruiting process, so Arkansas State was the school to go with.
I feel great. Coach Robinson reminds me a lot of Coach McKenzie, so it's probably going to be the same atmosphere from here to up there.
And just shout out, honestly, to the parents in their life, the adults in their life, the administration at Viger and within MCPSS, because that's the ultimate goal. And to hear those young men say, I'm glad my parents don't have to pay for school.
Right.
I'm glad I can go get higher education. I mean, and for some of those kids, we hear so many times during signing day, I'm a first-generation college student.
Yeah.
I've heard it for 15 years in this business. You hear it all the time. And to know that football is the avenue, but ultimately they know that the goal is to get the degree, I just think speaks volumes as to the character of these young men.
Yeah, I think it also shows like the programs are coming from high school to prioritize those academics.
Yep.
Because the thing is that if you don't make the grades, we've seen a lot of cautionary tales of guys that go and they whether they can't cut it academically in college.
Sure.
I feel like most, if not all these guys, all said to a T without prompt that they're focusing on academics. They understand the bigger picture of this. They have a chance to go make money as college students. They have a chance to go develop themselves, develop their skill set to go and play at the next level and make big dollars there at the NFL as well. But it seems to me that they're thinking about 18 years from now and not just 4 years from now. Even though right now their talent definitely says, "Hey, we're ready for Saturday football."
So true, no doubt about that. We're going to stay within the MCPSS footprint and head and also stay within the rivalry. Which naturally, we'll go from Viger over to Blunt. Gotta love that. All those guys we just heard from a minute ago, huge part of Viger's program. Well, this guy over here, Chase Howard with Blunt, a big part of the Leopards program over the last several years, Gerhard.
Yeah, I got a chance to talk to him the last couple of years doing our spring special, 33 teams in 33 days. And when Coach Ray Nelson sends up a sophomore at the time going into his junior season to go represent the team, he's special. And this is a guy that obviously thinks about his academics. He's a great defensive end going to Louisiana, Lafayette, joining a few of our local guys that will all be there in Lafayette. But you can tell he's got a great head on his shoulders. I think he serves on a student council there for both Blunt and for MCPSS. Great head on his shoulders. He had, I'm sure, so many different schools wanting him, not just for his football, but for what he brings off the field as well.
Sure.
A disruptive defensive end, though, too. So got a chance to talk to him as we crown another Blunt winner that we'll share with you a little bit later. But to be able to cross paths with him and know that he's going to sign there. He felt really, really good, and it was great to see him sign today.
Yeah, here's what Chase Howard had to say out there at Blunt. And we will have that in just a moment, guys. Let's keep things rolling for a moment. We're going to apologize for the technical difficulty. We'll have Chase Howard down in just a second. Gerhard, while we do, let's talk over at Daphne High School. Several guys over there also making their commitment, or they're signing their letters of intent, and none bigger than a young man headed to Ole Miss.
Yeah, Caleb Graham here. He's a defensive end. He came from Arizona last year, and so he came in kind of a fresh face, but he was one of the guys that was on this Kenny King defense that Coach King was just so high on going into the season. He understood, hey, this could be a really special team, really special defense. He was a part of that. Long-time commit to Ole Miss, solidified that commitment today, and he's not the only one there, as you saw with their fantastic softball player. Yeah,
for sure. That's Vic Moten. Vic Moten did leave Daphne for a moment and transferred to T.R. Miller. Ultimately, chose that she wanted to come back to Daphne. She was Miss Softball a year ago and has been committed to Alabama throughout that time, and so she makes it official with Alabama. Good to see her back along the Gulf Coast. Of course, T.R. Miller, one of our programs as well. But I think that Daphne was hoping that she would be back in purple and gold. But she certainly was a playmaker a season ago, not only in the circle, but also hitting as well.
Yeah, you could tell she has such a wide skill set there in softball. And she also, you got a chance to talk to her after the season when she was crowned Miss Softball, just how number one, well-spoken she is. She's a team leader. So like you said, it's great to have her obviously back there. And obviously Daphne, they have team goals. And they were this close.
Very close.
To a state championship. And I know that they feel a lot better going into it this year with her back in the circle.
Yeah, they certainly do. I want to apologize for the technical difficulty. Bringing it back to that Chase Howard sound. Here's what he had to say after signing with the Raging Cajuns.
It felt like home. The coaches, the players, they all treated me like family. I knew it was a culture I wanted to be a part of. Teammate and player. I'm a hard-working player. I'm going to carry my leadership skills over there to Lafayette. Still going to be a vocal leader. I'm going to be disciplined, coachable. Yes, sir.
All right, so congratulations to Chase Howard. Again, you mentioned all of the accolades and everything that he's been able to do. Student council, you can tell he's just a total well-rounded student athlete, someone you're proud to have on your program.
Yeah, no doubt. And a lot of these guys, and remember Louisiana Lafayette plays in the Sun Belt, so they'll get to play the Troys, they'll get to play the South Alabama.
It's always a little bit more meaningful when they come over there and play those in-state schools for sure.
No question.
We talked about Daphne. We mentioned that Caleb Graham is headed to Ole Miss. He's super proud of that. I think you talked about his draft stock, so to speak. I guess kind of rising as he came over from the West Coast to Alabama. He's enjoyed playing under Kenny King, and here's what he had to say.
Ole Miss, it's a dream come true. I never expected to go to Ole Miss, just being a West Coast kid, but Coach Joyner, Coach Kiffin really got me, and they pulled me from Daphne, and I'm very excited to be up there in Oxford. I'm excited just to compete and just have an opportunity to play with Ole Miss, and I know I'm a freshman, but I'm gonna make it work, and we're gonna find out when I get up there.
So shout out to Taylor Boyson, our reporter who was shooting this, because she said I really liked hearing from the football player that's going to Ole Miss. She said he's so well spoken. He was super he just came across as a very genuine guy. You could tell it meant a lot to him to be in the spotlight and to have this moment that he knows that he also earned as well, but was very humble about it. And just I think it was cool for him to say, hey, I never expected to go to Ole Miss, and here I am playing in the SEC.
Yeah, you could tell he's got a self-awareness about him. And I got a chance to talk to him during our spring special. And, there's another guy that Coach Kenny King put up there as one of the guys to lead the team. But one of the things that he really mentioned, Simone, was that he left Arizona, which is a completely different culture.
Oh, yeah.
Altogether, not just lifestyle, but football as well, and then came here to Alabama, and he fit right in. And I think that meant a lot to him. And so he understood doing it, at the high school level is one thing, and it sounds like by that soundbite, he understands that he's going to have to step it up as he goes to the SEC.
Yep. Congratulations to Caleb Graham. Let's head over to the beach in Gulf Shores, where Mark Hudspeth and company has celebrated a couple of football standouts over there. Colin Wilson, you see here, signing with Mississippi State, the great running back. He's truly carried the load this year for Gulf Shores due to some injuries. They were in the Wildcat more than they were in anything else. Gerhard, and you just knew this guy. I think he had 5 touchdowns in one game at one point. He's fantastic. And then another player for Gulf Shores and Carter Bird, he signed with Southeastern Louisiana. And so 2 guys who have certainly earned this opportunity, won a state title a couple of years ago. They weren't in the playoffs this season, but I think that they were certainly integral in what they were able to accomplish there at Gulf Shores.
Yeah, shout out to Colin Wilson going over to play for Jeff Lebby. I know Mississippi State didn't have the kind of season they want, but it's like we talked about with Auburn and all these schools. I think that this class for Jeff Lebby, this is his first real class. And I know obviously they had the tragedy, and then they had their fire their previous coach, but this is like the first year for Coach Lebby, understanding he wants to bring in quality guys, and I think that Colin Wilson obviously represents that for him. And then going to be an SLU Lion there, Carter Bird. I'm familiar with that football program, and that's another program that's on the rise.
Sure.
And they're building, and so it's great to see both those guys.
Yeah, and I think that both of these guys are intrigued and excited about the opportunity to go and make an impact potentially early, and to help be a part of a little bit of a rebuild, or just like you said, programs that are looking to continue to move forward, not something that's maybe already established in their current state at the moment. We had a chance to speak to both players. Here's what they had to say about signing.
Today, it's SEC ball. Every kid dreams of playing in the SEC. I like Coach Lebby's offense, a real high-power offense, scores a lot of points, and not too far from home, but not too close at the same time.
Describe to me who Mississippi State fans are getting in Colin Wilson.
I think I'm an all-around athlete. I can affect the game in many ways. Plus, outside of sports, I think I'm a good academic kid. Christian, believing God. So I think I'm an all-around kid.
The reason I wanted to go to Southeastern is I know a bunch of people up there. They got a real deep Gulf Shores pipeline, and I connected with the DC just immediately as soon as we got on the phone. We had good conversations, and it just inspired my decision to go there.
Who are they getting as a football player?
They're gonna get a dog. I'm gonna be a dog for them. I'll be a hard-working player. I'm gonna keep my head down, just work, grind it out. Yes, sir.
Man, listen, I'm old school, and I love that. I'm gonna be a dog. Listen, you cannot go in as a freshman anywhere and be intimidated. And so to say that I'm gonna go in, I'm gonna be coachable, I'm gonna be a dog, I'm gonna make an impact. I mean, that's what coaches want to hear.
No
they're
doubt.
going to go in there and they put their head down and work. praise. We need young men. We need young women in athletics nowadays that just want to block out all the noise and just put their head down and work. And Carter Bird, Colin Wilson, two guys certainly that want to do that.
I think people of my generation, maybe a little older, we think, oh, yeah, these young kids, they're all entitled. They all want to just, go in and get everything handed to them. It's so great to hear this all to a T, these 17, 18-year-olds saying, hey, no, I know that it's about the work. And I know what I have to do from a physical standpoint, but also know what I have to do from a mental standpoint to do it. And he's about to go be a dog over in Hammond.
Yeah, he's going to be a dog. No doubt about that. All right, let's head to Irvington now over at Alma Bryant High School where the Canes had a big signing. Reggie Mosley, the senior defensive end over there, made it official with North Alabama. Reggie been a big part of the Canes program for the last several years under head coach Bart Sessions. Certainly a guy that I know that they are proud of. You could hear that today. He had a kind of a room full of guys in the senior class who were supporting him and just cheering him on. And he had a little bit of a speech just saying how grateful he was. And I think that they feel good about kind of leaving the program in a little bit of a better place with 2 big wins and beating Foley for the first time. And so we had a chance to interview him, and I think that he felt like, hey, it hasn't always been roses, but I'm proud of the work we put in. I'm proud of where this program is right now.
Well, at the end of the day, your senior year, you have a few games left to play. It's so easy just to roll over and say, Coach, I'm not doing it. We see it in college all the time with these guys, skipping bowl games and just holding out, getting ready for the NFL draft. You see that trickle effect somewhat in high school as well. If you're not going to win a championship, if you're out of the playoffs. But he's a leader, and I think you've mentioned it basically kind of behind the scenes, almost like a strong silent type, where he's just very he'll lead with his actions.
Yes.
And I know that Coach Sessions really loves that, and I know that they'll also love that there as he goes to play the next level.
Yeah, I had the chance to speak with Reggie against a soft-spoken guy. He's doesn't always want the spotlight. On signing day, you get the spotlight. That's what you get. So here's what he had to say about signing.
I'm really excited. I think went into my decisions with Coach Dimon. Was a great coach, and he's from this area, so that made me really comfortable with committing. I'm proud of the progress we made to change the program around here, and I feel like I'm leaving it in a good place it is.
So once again, another addition to North Alabama, and I think that Coach Dearman, obviously with his ties down here, but also he has people on his staff that are down here and working as well. And Deshaun Davis, former standout player here, went to Auburn. He comes down here and recruits a lot along the Gulf Coast. And so just to see those guys kind of get their opportunity, go to North Alabama, great facilities there, and a big opportunity for him and several local guys signing today. So, all right, let's head over to Bayside Academy, G, where another local standout makes it official with a program that is currently in the talk right now on the national level.
Yeah, right now, SMU, if you look at the latest bracket, they're up there. This is Graham Uter, who's going to SMU over there in Dallas. If that last name and that school sounds familiar, it's because his brother did the exact same thing just a year ago. 2 big boys, but also big contributors to a football team that had a really, really successful season this year. And it was a great celebration there over at Bayside. When you think about Bayside, you obviously think about their baseball. Of course, you think about their volleyball, but they put together a really strong football program over the last few years. You know Coach Barrett Trotter. I'll talk about him in the same way I'm talking about Antonio Coleman. Guys that were players not that long ago, understanding just how important and how big this moment is. Barrett Trotter, obviously a former Auburn quarterback.
Yeah, for sure. So headed to SMU, had a chance to talk to Coach Trotter today, and I think that he is so proud of where this program. I feel first thing he said was we could have gone another game, and that's and naturally coaches who are as competitive as he is and played the game before, that's their first response to everything. But I think he's proud of having a total turnover, and when it comes to some guys leaving the program late in the year and really just having to readjust when you have those centerpieces not there anymore. And then we look up, they win several games in a row. We talked about that several times in sitting in these chairs, and then I think he knows that hey, this program is in a way better place than maybe we thought going into August, and obviously guys like Uter there, obviously a big part of that success.
Yeah, I think that this kind of started building towards this from the summer, the back end of the summer when, like you said, everything changed. Lost their starting quarterback. Miles was one of these guys that had to play both ways, and you have a situation where like you just pick up what you need to, and you talk about smart players, talking about guys that are good leaders, and this is that, and Uter's definitely that, and I think that what he was able to build will help Bayside. As they build going into next season, they'll look to guys like him for, hey, this is the reason why we are where we are.
Definitely. No doubt. Throughout the day, again, we're all over the Gulf Coast getting coverage, but there were some guys who signed, didn't have a signing day celebration quite yet, so we want to give a shout out to those guys for sure. One of them over at Spanish Fort, Trent Sellers, he did a kind of a celebratory signing with the rest of the senior class. Chase, I spoke to Chase Smith over there at Spanish Fort. Kind of given the option. He said, "Hey, I want to sign with my class." Loved that. So he was there, and he certainly made a big impact there. He started at Faith Academy and was a big time playmaker, and now he's headed to Arkansas in the SEC.
Yeah, this is a situation where I think that Trent is kind of the perfect representation of kind of what Coach Sam Pittman wants to build there at Arkansas. Physical, big, tough, strong. You see that with him and Overton. Overton's kind of like that hard hitter kind.
Yeah.
So it's good to see both those guys, a guy from Williamson and a guy from Spanish Fort, going up to Fayetteville, trying to help that program take that next step there. So and like you said, Trent opted to do it with his senior class. It was a really big senior class. Obviously, he couldn't physically sign until today, but doing that ceremoniously with that group kind of speaks to the kind of person that he is, thinking of the bigger picture.
Yeah, for sure. Over at Baker High School, a couple guys in Kevin Gaines made it official with Alabama State. So he is headed just there to Montgomery. And then Donovan Hudson, had a chance to talk to him as they were preparing for the big MGM game in the Battle of West Mobile. Also headed to UNA. So again, Baker's going to have their signing ceremony next week on Wednesday. It's going to include several football players, I think, who are still hoping to make their decision in the next hour or so, or 24 hours or so while the period's open. Some other student athletes in different sports as well. So that's going to be happening next week. But congratulations to those two guys at Baker for signing there. And then over at MGM, Jaden Smith signed with Lafayette. And so several guys getting opportunities ahead to the next level, Gerhard. And, you know, whether they're having it celebrating today or celebrating next week or already celebrated, it's certainly a day of celebration regardless.
It certainly is. And one of the things as we're talking about these last few schools here, what really comes to mind is just how much they cross over. How many Louisiana Lafayette guys? How many UNA guys?
You can tell what schools are hitting these areas hard for sure.
No doubt. And they're building those crossroads with the coaches, with the players, and also there's some familiarity in the locker room when you walk in. You know that there's guys that are from your area, and I think that's really important. Going back to Shamar James for a bit, I know he's been at Florida for a while, but one of the things he always talked about, we talked about it during SEC Media Days when he came to represent the Gators, is he goes into that locker room every day and talks about how much better Mobile football is.
He talks some trash, and he's proud of it.
And he's talking to guys that are from Miami and Atlanta and Charlotte and these kind of football powerhouses. But he does that, and I feel like a lot of these guys will go down and represent the 251 very well. So you're right. So whether you had a side of center today, before, or later, the joy and excitement is still the same to go watch these guys play at the next level.
Yeah, it definitely is. Also, over at Jackson High School, we're going to talk about the state championship previews here in just a minute, but want to give a shout out to Markevian Blake, who signed with Jacksonville State. Head coach Cody Flournoy, there you go, your alma mater. Gotta love that. Go Gamecocks. Okay. Cody Flournoy, head coach at Jackson, said they opted not to have a signing celebration today. They left earlier for the championship game than Saraland would because they play earlier on Friday. They play at 11 a.m., so they're already headed to Birmingham. But I did talk to Coach there at Jackson, Coach Flournoy, and he's super proud of what they've been able to accomplish. And I think that leads us right into discussing this Jackson team, who has a huge opportunity at the 4A Blue Map on Friday morning.
Yeah, Progressive Stadium. This is a Jackson team that I think has been on a mission. Ever since last year, they lost in what they thought was a little early. No disrespect to Andalusia. Andalusia, a great team, but this Jackson team has been on a mission. Open the season with Saraland. Well, we see where Saraland is now in the 6A state championship game. That's the only team that Jackson has lost to. Ever since then, they've been on a roll. Last week, they beat a very, very good St. Michael team that had a historic season, and congratulations to them. So you'll see some positive plays of theirs in these highlights. A great job by Coach Philip Rivers and company making state history. But last week was about Jackson. It feels like this season has been about Jackson. And you made fun of me about this earlier. One of the very first state championship games I covered was a long time ago. You don't look it up.
What year was that?
But it was Jackson and Cherokee County. I think
you mentioned this.
I think the last two digits started with a 0. That's how long ago. That's how long ago it was.
I'm okay with that.
But so these two very proud programs. And for those that don't know Center and Cherokee County, they're almost carbon copies of one another as far as like their entire town pours themselves
into this football team.
Their football team. And so it's great to see these two communities back at it. Of course, we're rooting hard for the Aggies to be able to go win that blue map. A lot of the basketball guys that won a state championship right down the road in Birmingham.
Yep.
Protective Stadium's not too far away from the BJCC.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of those guys want to come back in the same fashion they did back in March.
Yeah, a lot of those guys either were on the team, watched the team, but they certainly watched the celebration when it came back there to Jackson, because that town was going to make sure everybody, the neighbors, everybody in Mobile, everybody statewide knew who won that blue map in basketball. And boy, are they on a mission. We've talked about it previously on this platform, that when we went up and honored Landon Duckworth as our Zaxby's Player of the Week, he was excited, but they were also ready to get back to practice. They're like, okay, thank you for this.
Right.
We have work to do. And so you love they have just totally kept their head down and kept the main thing the main thing.
Yeah.
You know,
Your favorite quote.
Exactly. And, it's been great, though. It's great to see their success and the kind of the fruits of their labor, because I think they put the work in. They got popped last year to Booker T. Washington there in the
Booker
third
T.
round, and didn't. I think it surprised everybody. I mean, I was surprised. And so, again, no disrespect, but I don't think anyone expected it.
Right.
And it certainly fueled the fire going into this Friday, 11 a.m. There against Cherry County. 11 a.m. When I played college basketball, if we had to play before 2, it was rough.
Tough.
So they're going to have to get up early.
Yeah, it's so different from every other game, because the 4A game and the 3A game, I've always said that your team has to be mentally strong to be able to play in that, because the Super 7 format, the way it lays out, is that game kicks off at 11 a.m., and then you have a 3 o'clock game and a 7 o'clock game. Well, your 7 o'clock, your Saralands, they do the exact same protocol they would do for any other game of the season.
Yep.
The 3 o'clock game is a little different augmentation of what you have to do. 11 o'clock, completely different.
Yep.
A lot of times they don't even practice, at 11 o'clock. So handling practice, handling the preparation, I think all that is really, really key going into this week. And I know Coach Flo, we talked to him last week. He said, we have a good plan in place. And I think them holding off on their signing ceremony shows, hey, their head's in the right place. They'll celebrate that later. They want to celebrate a blue map coming up tomorrow.
Yeah, we actually had one of our photographers, who's a Jackson alum, out at Jackson today, getting their going away celebration as they head to the state championship. And so we'll have that tonight at 10 o'clock on our normal newscast, just to be able to see the Aggies. I actually have it right here. Let me see if I can pull this up. I haven't watched it yet, but it's just guys headed to the buses, man. There's no better feeling. I didn't get to really experience this, honestly, ever, but there's no better feeling, because I've watched it. I've watched a lot of other teams do it. I wish I would have experienced it, but I mean, look at that. Look at that support,
awesome.
G. I mean, right there, that right there is what you call just hometown support. You could tell these guys are motivated. None of them are even smiling. They're so motivated. So it's just how it goes.
And I think it's you do it for all these people, and like it makes you proud whenever we hear on the back end, hey, did it for our family, did it for our friends. You do it for that, because these are the lasting images you see as you leave your hometown.
Yep.
You see the fire department and the police department and the moms and everybody who supported you all season long, and then you think back, especially a place like Jackson, you think back all the way to your 4th grade, and how they supported you in pup football on Saturday mornings, and now to be able to go play on another morning, on a Thursday morning, and go Friday morning to go play for that state championship. I think it's really special there. Great shots there.
I was about to say that Arnell Hamilton, a very proud Jackson alum.
Yeah.
He was a basketball star back in the day.
The
3A or 4A.
The 4A player of the year.
I said 3A. He's like, it was 4A. I'm like, okay, 4A player of the year back in the day. I know his brother is a Jackson resident and been proud supporter. So, man, when you're from Jackson, you're Jackson through and through. And so you see that in these shots. Best of luck to Coach Flournoy. We're certainly hoping that they bring back the blue map. No question there at 11 a.m. on Friday. Also on Friday, going to be a busy day for G Money. He's going to be up there in Birmingham. We'll be holding on the fort back here, trying to assist where I can. And so 11 a.m. there, and then it's going to be the 6A game as Saraland is on the redemption tour. And man, they look tough to stop, no question about that. Can they finish the job against a very tough Parker team? It's going to be a very hard matchup on Friday night.
This is one of those games where it just feels like it's going to have to live up to the hype. These two teams, when the pollsters did their final votes, this is number 1 and number 2. You rarely get that where number 1 and number 2 win for 4 straight weeks in the playoffs and find themselves in the state championship game. You call it a redemption tour, and I think that this Saraland team holds this perfectly, because they beat Pike Road last week in our Montgomery affiliates. Thank you for getting that for us. But we've seen them at home play teams like McAdory, play teams like Spain Park, and they get off to quick starts.
Yep.
They understand who they are and who they have to be in order to win games. And when you can lose an SEC commit, a guy that signed today in Dylan Alfred, and you still run the table the way they have, it's something special.
Oh, I thought you were talking about Ryan.
Oh, no, I didn't. I didn't even mention the best freshman player in college football.
Lose him meaning like going to the next level a year early.
Right, and go ball out on that level as well. But no, I was actually talking about Dylan Alford, but you mentioned Ryan Williams. Can you imagine if they had both those guys mixed in with C.D. Gill, mixed in with Santate Williams, who you're seeing here? This is a really fun team to watch, but I think that this team has been so laser focused. They don't play angry about last year's result. They don't play mad about last year's result, but they play with the kind of determination that lets you know that they understand they're good, but their mission is bigger. And I think KJ's mission is bigger as well, because KJ could finish up what could be, and I don't think this is hyperbole when I say this, he could wrap up one of the greatest careers we've ever seen from the quarterback in high school football history. The stats will be there. If he gets over, I think it's 265, 264, he said it earlier, he will have the number one passing record. He passed Jamarcus Russell, another Mobile native, last week in the game against Pike Road. If he passes, if he goes to number one, you can make an argument. Number one, 3 appearances in the state championship game, 1 yard short of 3 state titles if they end up winning on Friday. I don't know many careers that are much better than that, especially there on the 6A level where it's so competitive. So I know I'm putting the cart before the horse a little bit, but
it's all fair, and it's all facts. It's fact. No one can argue with that. No one can argue with things that are in black and white. That's what it is. And make no mistake, this guy's knocking on the door of being the all-time leading passer, and he probably hasn't played in a fourth quarter in 3 years.
Exactly. Yes.
I mean, he would have, and not to mention, he didn't play in 3 or 4 games this season because he had a little bit of a banged up knee. And they could have brought him back earlier, but they knew that he was, would probably go drop 260 on, and they didn't need him. And by the way, he has a great backup quarterback,
Jamison Roberts,
who they felt very comfortable with, continuing to keep things steady, beyond steady. I shouldn't say just steady. He was beyond steady. And here they are, 14-0. They've dominated teams. I think St. Paul's was probably the closest. I think it was the closest game, and we knew everything that was on the line and at stake in that one. And it was KJ's first game back, and he still looked fantastic. And so it's hard to not argue that he's one of the all-time greats. And I think that we didn't really know how great he could be. And I think you and I talked about it during spring when we saw him, and we saw him in 7-on-7s, and we saw him going early in this year, and we're like, wow, KJ doesn't need Ryan Williams. KJ doesn't need X, Y, Z. I'm not saying he doesn't want him. I'm not saying that those guys, Ryan Williams is probably one of the best that ever walked wear a jersey in the state of Alabama at the high school level. But make no mistake, look what he's done, man. Man, it would be incredible for them to go to Birmingham to finish this redemption tour, to win a second blue map in 3 years, their second in school history. Jeff Kelly has really done a tremendous job. KJ is so humble. He's just well-spoken, man. You just got to cheer for him.
And especially for him. And I don't want to make this personal, but because last year the way that it ended, and if people weren't following, he had the ball in the last play of the game, and fell just a yard short, and you saw the emotion right there on the field there at Bryant-Denny Stadium. You want it for him because of what he had to go through that year.
I have chills thinking about that. That was tough, man.
What
and Clay was so good, and Clay was so good. Talk about a game that lives up to the hype. That game was up to the hype.
That's a great point.
I was holding my breath the entire game. It was tit for tat, and they both had good defenses. It was just they both had unbelievable playmakers, and KJ was right there also making plays alongside Ryan.
That's right. And I totally forgot about that, but they got to such a quick start based on KJ's throws, and Ryan was on the other end.
Yes, it was incredible. There was no drop-off at all, even on the highest level. And I feel like going into this game against Parker, if they're going to be as evenly matched as they probably are when it comes to talent top to bottom, which is crazy to say, that anyone be as talented as Saraland. But if it is, it's the team they're playing on Friday. Because Parker has more Division I P5 and G5, whatever it is. I can't get used to that.
P4 now,
whatever it is.
G5
commits and signees. They're Ohio State. Their running back just flipped from Ohio State to Oregon. He signed with Oregon this morning, and he's incredible. And they're big up front. I've seen some of these defensive guys lay licks on some of these players that, man, I was hurt watching it. I was hurt. So, we'll see. But I think if someone has an edge, it's going to be Saraland because of experience
being there
solely. They have been there, done that. Now, Parker has not made a mistake. They just beat an Oxford team that I would also say had experience
very good,
in Sam Adams and what he and they had no issues. So maybe, I don't know. Maybe that's just something I'm just making up in my mind.
No, I think it's a great point, because just the experience of being there, knowing how to handle this week, and especially knowing that signing day is in the middle of it. You know, the last couple of years, KJ was watching. He was in the auditorium as Ryan signed, and as all these guys were signing scholarships a season ago and 2 seasons ago. Now it's his turn, and he handled that spotlight very well, and now he'll handle what I think the Friday night spotlight very well. But the good thing is about playing that 6A state championship game is that it's a normal week for you. It's not a normal week for everybody else. It's a little different for 7A, obviously playing on Wednesday. Then you have your 6A game on Thursday, or a 5A game on Thursday. It's a normal week for these guys. So they can kind of – it's a normal week, but it's not –
the only school – it's about the only game that gets to have that luxury, too.
But it's not a normal week for him, because obviously he's signing and making everything official for this time
But I think that if anything, all that does just takes the pressure off. And he's been locked in at Texas, and so Texas through and through for so long that was just a matter of just, crossing literally.
Yes.
And he doesn't have any T's in his name, but crossing the T's and dotting the I's, he doesn't have it in his name because he just had to send it in and move on to Friday. And so if you're thinking this is a guy who's going to be concerned about this record or anything like that, that's not going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, he ain't worried about that.
Think about what we have on the field, though, Friday night. If you're a football fan, think about what you have on the field Friday night. Your starting quarterback at Saraland is going to Texas. Your starting running back at Parker is going to Ohio State. Your starting defensive lineman for Saraland is going to Auburn. You have other D1 players all over the place for Parker.
I would really have to go look at what other Parker got. I mean, I knew Ben was there. Ben Thomas with AL.com was there, and he was posting about it. But I mean, they are unbelievably talented on both sides of the ball, and so it will certainly be interesting to see how this kind of goes down.
Yeah,
no doubt.
The future of college football will be on display there in that 6A state championship game, and I think a lot of people who will influence future national championships will be on display there at Protective Stadium.
Yep, we'll see. It's going to be fun. It's a 7 o'clock kickoff, maybe a little bit later, depending. I don't know. Sometimes they sort it out a little bit better. They have some breaks in between the games, but
right. But
you better wear a jacket.
Yeah, I'm bundled up. But if Cherokee County and Jackson go to overtime or whatever, it'll obviously bump back a little bit. But but no, being a part of that stage, and seeing the way that how those games roll out, how those games lay out, how teams get themselves prepared. It's always really, really fun. And this is the kind of what everybody plays for. And to have this on the same week as all these guys signing is really special.
And before we go, I might as well go ahead and update the 7A game that's being played right now. It looks like at halftime it was 21-7 Thompson. So wow. I know that Central kind of came out, scored first. I guess Thompson scored 21 straight there.
Yeah.
Not too bad for a team that didn't win the region and lost 2 or 3 games in the regular season.
Yeah, I think they lost 3 games.
Yeah.
I know they lost to Lipscomb Academy and a couple others.
Death Taxes and Mark Freeman winning state titles. So,
it's a cool sight though too, because like I said, this is a rematch of last year's state championship game. Then you
like the one before and the one before.
Right. And then you also had on Monday Night Football this past week. It got Super 7 got shouted out because Bo Nix is there. So it's really interesting, and it's great to see these state championship games. And I know that there might be a little Central/Thompson fatigue out there. It was Hoover before that. It was it could be
someone's got to hold the torch, I guess, as they pass it down. So
exactly. But no, it looks like we're in for a really good week if this is the starter. This is the appetizer.
Yeah, we're gonna go watch the end of this one for sure. But be sure to keep it locked in here at WKRG. We will continue to preview these games. Again, we heard from Jackson today during their send off. We'll have that coming up tonight at 10 o'clock, as well as check in with Alabama and Auburn basketball. But the biggest thing today, congratulations to all of our local signees, National Signing Day. And man, what a great representation along the Gulf Coast of teams, guys headed to the SEC, headed to other G5 schools, and just a lot to be proud of here in the early signing period. I think it shows off your commitment to academics, to be able to leave early, and then also your commitment to go in and get to work very early so you can make an impact early on the field. And so all of those things, kudos to the coaches, to the parents. This is a celebration for you guys as well, getting it done there behind the scenes too.
Yeah, and shout out to the administrations as well, because they do a great job of opening up their doors and allowing the media to come in and highlight and spotlight.
Yeah, and we appreciate that. Yeah,
spotlight these guys.
Didn't have a single. And you know what? I'm going to say this.
Yeah,
I didn't have a single hiccup.
Not one.
Didn't have a single problem. And you may be wondering, what are you talking about? we've had issues before where we can't get in for whatever reason. A school is like, hey, and we don't want any media coverage of our guy signing, and you're sitting there like palms up, like what's going on? This doesn't make any sense. But man, every single school opened their doors. They were gracious that we were there. We're grateful to be there, and so appreciate that. Shout out to all of our area schools, administrators, and student athletes. Best of luck to Saraland and Jackson on Friday as they look to win the 6A and the 4A state championship. We'll have coverage from Birmingham, of course, Protective Stadium on Friday, and then roll on to whatever's after that. Basketball season. Anyway, let's go.
Let's do it.
Hoops. All right, guys. For Gerhard, I'm Simone. Producer Pat holding it down as always. Everybody here at WKRG News 5. We will see you later. Have a good one.